There's a book about Wonder Woman that I really love, and it's amazing. And this is my kitty cat.
Hey guys, it's Sarah and I am here with BookList Thursday. This is a video series I started with my friend Lisa over at Books and Smiles. I will have her link down below. Please go and check her out. She's amazing. And every Thursday we are bringing you just a fun list that we feel like talking about. This week we are going to do a different take on a video that we did a couple of weeks ago. We did one that was unpopular books that I loved, and we did that based on the average rating on Goodreads, and we just took a look at some of the lower rated ones and talked about the ones that we actually ended up loving. This week we are going to reverse that, and we are going to talk about popular books that we didn't like. So these are books that have a really high average rating and we rated them lower. For myself personally, I'm going to consider anything 3 and below a lower rating for me. 3 is very middle of the road. And so if a book gets a 4 or 5 stars and I gave it a 3, we probably have very differing opinions on it. So I'm just going to go through my Goodreads feed and see what pops up first, and I will talk about the first 5. The first one is actually a book I just read last month, and that is Dear Ejiawele by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And this one is a very short letter, just about, and it is from Chimamanda to a friend of hers who asked her for advice on how to raise her daughter to be a feminist. Now, this one has an average rating of a 4.56, which is extremely high. My rating was a 3, and my reasons for that mainly is because I didn't necessarily agree with everything that she was suggesting as far as what is actually sexist against women and what isn't. So I had, just a couple things, and it wasn't everything. There was some really, really good messages in there for sure. And, it's hard to read a book like this and not keep your own personal values in mind while you're reading it. So that's why I didn't necessarily agree with absolutely everything. I thought some of it was a little bit of a stretch on whether or not it was really something that was harmful for women, but some of it was. So I'm not naive to any of that type of stuff. I just didn't necessarily agree with everything, so I gave it a 3 stars. This next one actually surprised me that it was rated so high, and that is Air of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, and this is book number 3 in the Throne of Glass series. This has an average rating of a 4.52. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. This one just definitely wasn't my favorite in this series, and I think it's just because it didn't have as much action in it as I wanted. It was mainly about Selena being taken out of her home, and she is introduced to who she really is and where she's actually from and actual members of her family. And there wasn't a lot of conflict in this one, and it was more like her realizing who she was and getting some, new aspects of her life and learning about those things, which is fine. But there just wasn't a whole lot of, conflict and action. So I was really finding myself craving that from this book. So I gave it a 3. The next one is The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. This one has an average rating of a 4.25, and I gave this one a 3 stars. And this one was hard for me to rate because this is a memoir. So it's hard to, read someone's actual, real, true life story and rate it. But at the same time, there were just, there were some things that really bothered me about it that I couldn't really believe that these things were happening, especially, since this is a memoir, so everything is supposed to be true, nothing should be embellished. And what I found really unbelievable was that she had memories that went back to when she was, 2 or 3 years old. Like, she was describing things in so much detail about that time in her life. And I was like, I barely remember kindergarten, and that's, 6. So I just had a really hard time believing that she could remember everything that happened when she was 2 years old. I really don't think that was a thing. So I think she was probably relying on the memory of others, which, is not always the case. And yeah, so that just really, it bothered me to a point where I took the rating down because I was just like, there's no way she remembers this. It made for a good story, but yeah, it was hard for me to get behind that. The next one is actually a book that I also read earlier this year. I read it in January, and that is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. This one has an average rating of 3.97. I gave this a 2 stars. I did not like this book. And a lot of it is because I just don't like these types of memoirs where women are needing to find themselves, and so they go on this big adventure type of thing. I just don't like that storyline, I guess you could say. I don't feel it's necessary. I had a big issue with Eat, Pray, Love because I just didn't like the book in general. And then afterwards I found out she was actually given money to do that. So I didn't feel it was genuine at all. And then she also ended up breaking a lot of her rules that she set for herself. We're not talking about that book. We're talking about this book. But this one, she bothered me as a person. So I didn't like her as a person. Therefore, I'm reading a book about her, and I didn't really like it. I didn't like a lot of the decisions that she made. I did not agree with so many of her decisions. I didn't like the fact that she was casting aside very horrible and hard decisions like they were nothing. And it seemed like it didn't affect her. And I just went, what? Like, why aren't we talking more about this? And how you came to that decision and why you think that's okay. And I just felt like so much was glossed over, and yeah. Nope. 2 stars. I didn't like it. And the next one is another book that has a 2.97, and I gave this one 2.5 stars, and that's The God Box by Alex Sanchez. And this one I read recently as well. I think I read it last year in 2017 towards the end. This one is a fiction novel about a young boy who is a Christian, but he's also struggling with the feelings that he might be gay, and how he is going to try to come to terms with his reality on that and also still be a Christian and still have God in his life. And I didn't give it 2.5 stars because of the subject matter, because I knew what it was going in. I just had issues with it. I felt that a lot of it was attempting to change the wording of the Bible to fit your needs and what would be more convenient for you. And I don't like that. I don't agree with doing that, because the Bible is supposed to be the way that Christians live their life, whether it's hard or not. I also did not like that there was a lot of bullying, extreme bullying going on in this setting, including from adults on children, including teachers on children. And I just went, nope, you will lose your job. And none of them did. And that really bothered me. I was like, I can't imagine a teacher witnessing the type of bullying that was going on because they were witnessing it and turning their back and being okay with it. Nope. Not okay. No. And I don't ever see that being a reality. And if it is, then that teacher needs to be fired. And that was never, ever even addressed in this book about how the teachers were handled. So I took a lot of issues with it. I felt that there wasn't very good representation for Christians in here. So, yep, 2.5 stars. And also the writing wasn't very good. I'm not going to lie. I didn't really enjoy the writing style either. I thought it was very simplistic and very basic. So I think it has a high rating mostly because of the message behind it and the, subject matter of it, because that's a really tough subject matter to write about. All right, guys, that is it. So those are some of the popular books that I don't enjoy and I did not enjoy when I read them. And let me know down below if you guys have any books that are really popular, but when you read them, you were just like, ugh, about it, or you didn't like it. You had a lot of issues with it. Another example for me, which didn't pop up on my screen actually, but Passenger by Alexander Bracken. Dad gave that book 2 stars. I thought it was boring beyond all belief. And so many other people I saw that were reading it were loving it and raving, and 4 and 5 stars. And I was just like, are we reading the same book? I don't know. There were quite a few people who had the same opinion as me though. So it may not be quite as highly rated on Goodreads averagely, but man, when I was watching people's reviews of it, they were raving and I just went, I don't get it. So guys, make sure you please go and check out Lisa's channel and check out her video for today as well. And I will talk to you guys again soon. Hope you have a great day. Bye.